It's that time again. Welcome back to the podcast of champions. I'm your host, Lord Deathman, and we're reviewing part 6 of Obi-Wan Kenobi on today's show. It would be unwise to proceed any further if you haven't seen the season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Spoilers ahead. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate. It's not too late to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's turn our attention towards the arena where today we have 4 champions, including myself, moderating today to discuss the final episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll do some quick introductions, starting with Jeff Bowman, JB. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Good to hear your voice again. Ready to talk some Star Wars. And we also have Grandmaster today. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great, and it's good to hear you're doing great as well.
Yep. I'm trying. How are you doing today, Biz? Top of the morning to you in Australia.
Yeah, very good. Not bad. So, ready to talk Star Wars as usual.
Indeed, I'm not betraying your location because your accent does that. So
he comes from a land down under. Yeah,
indeed. Always good to hear from you. And last but certainly not least, we have your favorite fan's favorite fan, Taylor. How are you doing today?
Doing good, thanks. Not sure what that means.
I know. I'm just putting in some random stuff to confound the listeners, keep them guessing. But guys, let's dive right into the conversation. This was an incredible episode as far as I'm concerned. It had all the intensity, the action, the emotion that you expect from Star Wars, the melodrama. I'm really anxious to hear what you guys had to say. So we're going to go around the table and start with those quick impressions like we usually do. Give me what you thought of it just off the cuff. Give me a short sort of top line assessment of the show. Let's start with Taylor on this round.
I thought it was a fantastic episode. Vader and Obi-Wan confrontation was epic, and the way it ended set up the universe back to where it should be. So I think it all went really, really well.
Yeah. Great episode. Couldn't agree with you more. Thanks for those notes. Biz, what was your take on this final episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah, I gave Taylor an amazing episode. What you'd expect from the finale, it brought things together. It definitely brought it home. Yeah, like I said, like on the board, 12 out of 10. Amazing.
12 out of 10. Amazing. Yeah. A literal earth-shattering episode. I mean, you asked for it and they delivered. Grandmaster, what was your take on this episode?
Yeah, how can I not say it was great? But yeah, I do have some questions about the show overall, though. But I really loved this final episode, and it gave us maybe the best Darth Vader scene in whole Star Wars, if I may say so.
That's a bold claim, considering we see him very seldom in Star Wars, but whenever we do, there's a fairly big impact. So we're going to unpack that statement when we come around to you for some of the deep dive analysis. Thank you for that, Grandmaster. And last but certainly not least, JB, did they stick the landing on this final episode for you?
Oh yeah, definitely for me, man. That was awesome. Just the whole series. This was a way to wrap it up. I loved it. It answered a lot of questions, but we finally got to see the master take the Padawan back to school, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was I really did. I liked it.
He did the thing. He did the thing, the sort of arm outstretched, saber outstretched thing.
The 2 fingers pointing at him with the saber ready to go straight forward. Yeah, that was awesome.
We got to find out. We'll get the producer to find out if that is like a legit fencing stance, because Ewan McGregor does it so well that it's like a rebuke, but it's also like, I dare you to desire me. It
was just epic.
It really was epic. That's the best word for it, JB. All right, listen, we've got the initial impressions, and guys at home, as you can see, the panel's very excited about this episode, as am I. But this time we want to go around the table and sort of get the deep dive. So I want to talk to the team, the panel here, the champions, about what it is that really stood out for you. What were the highs? If there were any lows in this episode, talk about those as well, and any details that stood out to you in general. Again, let's start this round with Taylor and see what you had to say. How do you feel like this came together from you in a more detailed perspective?
Well, of course, the culmination of the whole series was that confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader, and it was, like Grandmaster said, one for the ages. It was monumental, and not just the fact that it's Obi-Wan and Vader fighting again, but the whole scene, the way it was shot, the lighting, the way the lightsabers were providing basically all the lighting of the scene.
Yeah,
and it's dark, and the use of the Force powers, and Obi-Wan getting buried alive, but digging deep, tapping into all of his Force powers and coming out, and ready for round two. And again, making the rocks all fly at Vader, and Vader using his Force powers to try to stop him, but getting worn down, and then his helmet getting sliced open. I mean, it's indescribable. That scene right there, that was like, I'm not even sure what to compare it to, other than like the epic showdown at the end of High Noon or something that's been building up for time after time after time, and then we finally get it, and it delivers. So that was fantastic. Reva going after Luke. Cool stuff there too. I love how Owen and his wife, tried to protect Luke and did protect Luke as best they could. I'm not 100% sure why she went after him. Maybe I need to rewatch certain scenes. I know she saw the hologram or whatever it's called. But all I heard that thing say was the children, Tatooine, Owen. That's about all I heard. So did she figure out that this was Darth Vader's kid, or was she thinking she was going to punish Obi-Wan now by killing this kid?
Right.
I'm not 100% sure. And again, maybe that's me. I've only seen the episode once, so maybe I didn't catch everything there.
No, Taylor, I think you're spot on. There feels like there was a little something missing in the editing there that doesn't explain quite why she was going to try and kill Luke. So you're dead on.
Yeah. Well, she's a mean person, at least up until the very end, where she has a change of heart, which is nice. And okay, a lot of people have been complaining about, she got stabbed with a lightsaber, and I was kind of, rolling my eyes at that too. But you know what? That's just kind of par for the course for this genre and action movies in general. I mean, we've seen heroes get shot through the stomach and the chest, and stuff that would kill any normal human being, and they just keep fighting. How many times have we seen the scene where a guy like almost died and he's in the hospital, and they say, your sister's in trouble, and he pulls the IVs out of his arm and gets out and goes and takes on 100 bad guys. It's just kind of par for the course. It's not, you just got to accept it. And she has Force, then of course there's always the Star Wars answer. Force did it. She used the Force to help heal her temporarily till she could go and kill Luke for reasons we don't know quite yet. But
we'll just call them
overall,
reasons.
Again, action scenes, story wise, I've seen people saying, now maybe we'll get a Reva show. Okay, maybe. I guess we'll talk more about what's in the future later. But I don't know if that's necessary. Of course, I'll watch it. So whatever.
Yeah.
But overall, really, really like the episode, and great wind up for this season. This show does not need another season. Again, if they make it, I'll watch it. But I don't think it needs another season. I'd rather see 7 years down the road to Leia joining the rebellion. I'd rather see that show than more Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan can't be running around the galaxy too much while he's supposed to be watching
in hiding. Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah.
Oh yes, thank you for those notes, Taylor. I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. 100%. There has been a lot of online chatter about the B story for this episode with Reva. I personally found it satisfying. I will admit that there's some editing issues. You're not quite clear about the motivations, but come on, it's possible that she got stabbed in the side with the saber. It didn't look like Vader was even interested in killing her or the Inquisitor. They were like, "You're nothing. We don't have to worry about you. We've got some Empire business to deal with. We're leaving." Vader was like, "We're out." But yeah, that being said, I want to turn to the Grandmaster. Highs, lows, anything that really stood out from this? You seemed really enthusiastic about it in the initial review, but talk to us a little bit more in detail.
I am enthusiastic about this. Like I say, I think the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, if you really think about it, it's the real only fight between Vader and Obi-Wan. I mean, technically, in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin isn't Vader yet when they fight on the volcano planet. And in A New Hope, there is not really a fight. Obi-Wan sacrifices himself for Luke. So this is basically the only real confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader.
Right.
And I really, really loved how they, what is for me the core of the Obi-Wan show is Obi-Wan's PTSD about his friend Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side, feeling his failure as a master towards his Padawan, and to see him being relieved of that guilt, of that trauma by Vader himself, who says, "You did not do this. I did this to myself." To me, that was really, really powerful stuff. And,
yeah.
After that awesome fight, like Taylor said, with all the Force powers, I mean, the Jesus imagery for Obi-Wan, when he lifted all those rocks, stood there with his lightsaber like Jesus Christ himself, beating the devil. The symbolism was there. That made it. And then, of course, the half helmet where he sees Anakin and Vader. And actually realizes that Anakin is truly gone. I believe there's also a scene like that in Rebels or Clone Wars, where Ahsoka does the same thing with Vader, but then it's the other side of his helmet. So yeah, all that stuff was there. I really loved it. We discussed Riva going for Luke last week in Canon Fodder. And I will not disclose yet how that went, but back then already I felt like, okay, she is doing some mental gymnastics there when she, from that broken down hologram message. And indeed, she's going to kill Luke Skywalker, but you never think about what the consequence will be until you see that unconscious boy laying there. You're about to slay him, and then all of a sudden it reminds you of you and what happened to you, your trauma. It felt a bit forced. Sorry, again, the same pun as last week, but it is the case. So yeah. Are you coming later for our thoughts about the whole show, or can I drop those here right now?
You can drop your thoughts about the entire show here. Next round, we're going to go to ratings, but if you've got more to say, we'd all love to hear it.
Okay. I want to get out of the way. I love the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. It is a good show. Don't get me wrong. There is too much awesomeness going on for me not to like this show. So I want to get it out of the way. But I am also critical of the show. And
you have to be.
Because a lot of awesome scenes and a cameo, one or two. I mean, nobody mentioned it yet, but Qui-Gon Jinn showing up at the end as a Force Ghost, which was, of course, we all saw that coming from miles away. But if you all look at it, what actually happened in this show that that brought that changed Obi-Wan. The only thing that changed Obi-Wan was his confrontation with Vader, and the rest is all a little bit drama.
Right,
that
melodrama.
doesn't really add to the story or
in terms of the arc of the character. I think I see where you're going with this, Grandmaster. He doesn't really change other than finally finding out that his best friend and his former student is now this master of evil.
Yeah. That and then they add the storyline with Leia because they need some vehicle to get that confrontation going. I understand that, but they turn Leia, one of the most beloved Star Wars characters, into a MacGuffin, and Leia, Kid Leia, I love the actress. She did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but it also brought a lot of silliness, a little bit too much silliness, and that makes for me that you can question how well this show was written. There were very awesome moments, like I said, just at the fight with Vader and Obi-Wan, and that really saved the show for me. I put so much on the board, but there is a lot of questions to be had by couldn't they have done it better? Couldn't they have done it differently? And what did the character of Reva add in the end? I mean, I don't hate the actress. I don't hate her acting. I don't hate the character of Reva. But what did it add to the story? If Reva wasn't there,
would the story have played out any differently? No, it's a valid question. It's a valid point.
So yeah, she kidnapped Leia or went for Leia. That's her only purpose in this whole show. And then they didn't have anything for her to do, so they made all kind of subplots. Everybody knew when she was going for Vader that she stood no chance. She is not a fully trained Jedi who can take up Vader. And then then we need to let her do something in the last episode. Okay, let's send her to Tatooine to try to kill Luke and have her do a 180 in the end. To me, that fell a bit flat, and that really hurt this show. So yes, I really like Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, because there was too much good for me to call it bad, but there was also a lot of silliness and a lot of questions I have with the overall arc, which also does not make it awesome.
Right. And we know that the series was heavily rewritten, that they had problems with quality control on the scripts during production. There probably was a lot of editing. You can tell that there's some missing blind spots in some of the episodes that Taylor pointed out in terms of character motivations. But before I move on to a follow-up with Taylor, my last question for you, Grandmaster, is, do you feel like the Reva character was forced on us, or, is there potential for her to kind of add to the Star Wars universe moving forward?
I think there's potential for her, absolutely, because I think she has an interesting background that was established in the show. They didn't use it very well in the show, but there's certainly potential. Do I want a Reva show? No. Would I watch a Reva show? Yes.
But say she comes back as supporting.
But I would rather see her come back as a supporting character and have like a role in the Ahsoka show or whatever, stuff like that, instead of have her own show or revolving around her. I don't see that happening, that's how I feel.
Nope. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for your notes there. Taylor, you've been really patient. You had a follow-up on Grandmaster's notes?
Yeah, all the things he was just saying, and he said the same thing on the board. I think on the board he said it succinctly. He said the action kept it from being bad. And yes. To me, that he's just described the entire Star Wars franchise with that one.
Yeah.
Awesome action, awesome scenes, awesome special effects, cool looking characters. This is pulp. I know I use that word a lot, but that's really the essence of what pulp entertainment is. regardless of what genre it is, whether it's thrills or scary or funny or action, those parts make up for more pedestrian writing.
Right.
That is the definition of what pulp is. And I don't think George Lucas ever pretended Star Wars wasn't pulp.
Was anything else? Yeah.
That's true.
It's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, but with great action and great special effects and awesome oh wow moments, and I'm okay with that. And
well, I'm okay with that too. I give the show a pass, but there's also let's just face it. We're also watching and reviewing the Ms. Marvel show, and I think that show is much better written than Obi-Wan Kenobi. That may be not so awesome because of the action, because that's lacking. But the show Ms. Marvel is better written than Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think if you have writers who can write a great story about a young Muslim girl in New Jersey, they should also be able to write great stories about in this universe, which they have such a rich potential. And they're still lacking, and that annoys me.
I'm not trying to give the show a pass, Grandmaster, but I think Taylor makes a very good point in that Star Wars really comes from the tradition of those serials from the 30s, 40s, big melodrama, big action beats, and not a lot of sophisticated attention being paid to the plotting. Very O. Henry, somebody is going to turn out to be someone else's twin brother or twin sister. So we're dealing with a level of sophistication of storytelling that comes from a bygone era, but fans are much more sophisticated now. They're hypercritical about everything. How come he didn't send TIE fighters to catch the shuttle instead of saying increase firepower? You've got people having really, really nitpicky details about that. And I think if that's your whole thing, you're kind of missing the point of Star Wars. It's really for you to get embroiled in the drama. And that was a lot of drama when we came to that Darth Vader Obi-Wan fight,
Again, I agree, but I may speak my mind, and I want Star Wars to do better.
Grandmaster. Indeed. As our master of ceremonies, your mind is our mind.
That sounds like Star Trek.
All right. My mind to your mind.
Yeah, something like that.
All right,
Resistance
guys.
is futile.
Yeah.
There you go. We're capping it. We're crossing streams when it comes to franchises. I'm going to get us back on track. Biz, obviously you've been patiently waiting. I'd love to hear what you thought of this episode, your deep dive analysis. Where did they go wrong? Where did they go right? What were some details that really stood out to you?
All right. Well, yeah. Obviously, the fight between Obi and Anakin, now Darth Vader, that was definitely epic. I won't go over that too much. I think we've addressed that a bit.
Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to point out to you in particular, Biz, as our Star Wars aficionado here. I think Obi-Wan strikes the right side of Vader's face when he tears off part of the helmet. And if you look at Return of the Jedi, I wish I could take credit for this, but some fan saw that when he unmasks him in Return of the Jedi, he has that scar on the right side of the top of his head, which, now it kind of makes sense where that came from. And I thought that was a nice touch from the Star Wars team there to kind of explain that in story.
I can't say I noticed that, but I'm not that detailed when it comes to Star Wars. But yeah, there was another thing that I heard as well. It was actually from Stockman, where at the end, Obi-Wan acknowledged that Anakin was no longer there and he called him Darth, which goes to The New Hope, because that's what Ben Kenobi calls Vader as well. He calls him Darth. So yes. that was like a good link there too. But yeah, I'd like to say, I'd like to touch on what Grandmaster said in terms of the show. I fully agree. Obi-Wan is definitely not the best Star Wars show out there. The writing could have been definitely tighter. For example, The Mandalorian, the writing there is top notch. Well, Obi-Wan, even though I love the characters of Obi-Wan and Vader, the writing could have been a little bit better. But overall, I still like the show. Like Vader and Obi-Wan's confrontation, easily pretty much one of the best moments in Star Wars, even better than seeing Luke, better than seeing Ahsoka. It's just Vader. He's the most iconic villain out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can I mention in this episode? For example, Leia. She's always nice to see. It was a good touch where. I'm not sure how significant the holster was. I guess she wears a holster in New Hope, like within the original
Child
trilogy.
running around with
exactly.
a gun holster.
Yeah. but that was I guess that was adorable. But yeah, like the series overall, like for example with it is true. Like, did Reva add much to the story? I don't know. I guess it was kind of like a side story, like movies, TV shows that they have their side stories. Like Reva.
Yeah.
It's hard to say with her.
And remember, she was a B story, which people are kind of upset because they keep cutting away from the main action with Vader and Obi-Wan to jump over to Reva. But that's how every Star Wars lightsaber battle has gone since the beginning of the franchise. That you're always cutting back and forth between the action of a B story and a saber fight, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, it was actually surprising to me. Like it is interesting though, like how she figured that out. That she just assumed it was Anakin's children they were talking about. I don't know. Maybe it was just a lucky guess, or maybe she felt something in the Force. Maybe she somehow knew about Padme. It's anyone's guess there. But again, it goes back to the writing. It could have been a bit better. There's no doubt about that. It did have some flaws, but overall, it was a good show. I mean, I had some more thoughts on Reva, but I kind of forgot about it. So maybe I'll remember it as time goes by.
Yep, we'll get to the lightning round. We'll talk a little bit more about Reva and all of the things that we might be a little bit more critical about in terms of this particular show. But thank you so much for your notes there, Biz. I want to turn to Jeff Bowman, last but not least, a fairly new champion for our audience at home. He is on audio, and we are going to get your highs and lows for the episode, Jeff, as well as any other notes that you want to share with us about this.
The absolute highest part, well, I'm not going to say the absolute highest part, but the most downloaded wallpaper off Obi-Wan has got to be the scene when Vader is walking off his ship, and across from him is Obi-Wan. And that background of the moon and all the cliffs and everything, that's just absolutely awesome. That's probably the most downloaded wallpaper around, you know. My lows for this whole thing is I overlooked it. I really overlooked it because it's not like it really matters to me, but I don't understand how Reva got from Jabim to Tatooine. I don't know how that happened, and how, I know
her lightsaber has a hyperdrive in it.
Right. I mean, I know there's time jumps.
It spins around like a propeller.
There was no ship there. There was no, there was nothing to give us an idea of how she would get from that planet to Tatooine. But that's okay. Like I said, I'm just throwing that out there because that was my lows initially when I first started watching it.
Right.
I've watched it several times since then, but and then I thought, man, she's Usain Bolting it across that desert after that little kid, and there's no gagging for air or slowing down or any indication other than Owen punching her in the stomach that she's been wounded.
Right.
And that just, to me, I was like,
her hair was tousled, JB. I think that they meant, her hair was a little, not as manicured. So maybe that was supposed to indicate to us that she was hurt.
And that, at first, that was my lows. That was and but I know there's time jumps and things like that, and maybe it, somehow it worked out, but
yeah. Suspension of disbelief, right, JB? I mean, we have to assume she got some kind of transport. Maybe she jumped on some, ship that was leaving at the moment. Who knows? But she figured it out.
maybe there were ships there that we just didn't see. And, but anyway, you just use your imagination, and that's okay. I don't have any problem with that. But that would have been my lows, really overall. But my highs for this thing is, like I said, I mean, for me, I think back to A New Hope when Obi-Wan confronts Vader, and Vader looks at him and says, "So we meet again." Now I know what happened the last time they met. You know what I mean? So now that means something whole different to me now, which I just thought was great. I mean, that was great.
I agree with you 100%, Jeff. When you go back and watch A New Hope or Star Wars, whatever you'd like to call that film, it kind of enriches your watching of that, because now you know exactly what they're talking about when they say they'd met before in the past. And now your viewing of that older movie sort of has a little bit more value to it. I'm not sure how to describe the quality, but I agree with you 100% on that, Jeff.
And the overall fight, the saber fight in this, I was really glad to see Obi-Wan get his mojo back, step into this fight and drop the hammer, because I was like, man, I watched this and I went back and watched Revenge of the Sith, and then I watched this again. But I mean, it's like you can't help but just I wanted to see this part of Obi-Wan like 2 episodes ago. You know what I mean? Right. But I'm so glad that it came out, and I'm so glad that they gave us this in the finale, because, to watch him, the first thing Vader says to him when he gets off the ship is, "Are you here to destroy me?" And the first thing Obi-Wan says is, "I will do what I must." And it's on from that point on. And I was like, man, and that, to me, that's just, the whole thing wrapped up. I mean, that's my highs overall, and
extremely emotional, dramatic. It's not just cool fighting and choreography just for the sake of it. I think they put in a lot of emotion into that fight and put the users into the viewers into the headspace of those two opponents, understanding the history. So I couldn't agree with you more, Jeff.
Giving us that strategy. They've let us see the strategy between Obi-Wan and Anakin. In episode 5, they gave us the flashbacks, and we got to see the strategy play out between the master and the Padawan. We saw how the anger overshadowed everything that Anakin was wanting to do, So I just thought it was really cool, man. It was great.
It was. I couldn't agree with you more. And I don't think, and Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never really seen Obi-Wan throughout the entire series really use the Force at this level. We've seen him do a lot of incredible saber work. We know the dude is trained in that area. But as far as his actual use of the Force, this kind of justifies him being at the level of a Jedi Master. And I felt, that was a great payoff in the fight as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, and the progression, they're showing the progression of him getting to this point through all these episodes. When we started first episode 1, he looked broken, and he was down and broken, wasn't taking a bath. He was all stinky, and now we look at him and it's back to the guy that was in Clone Wars, the leader, the general, and we seen the Force, with him, and it just, I loved it. I mean, I really did.
Yeah. Oh, couldn't agree with you more, Jeff. Always great talking to you about this stuff. We've got our deep dives from the entire panel, and of course, now I'd like to go around the table and get those oh so important ratings from you guys. So take a minute to think about your 1 to 10 scales, 1 to 5, whatever it is you do in terms of comparing these episodes to other episodes or rating the quality. We are about to rate the season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want to start with you, Biz, in terms of you telling me how many lightsabers, 1 to 10, can you give this episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, I've already rated. I'm a super fan of the prequels, so 12 out of 10, and Vader. So yeah.
the buttons go all the way up to 12 for
Yeah.
you. That's an extraordinary rating, and I want to challenge you on it a little bit, because you're really putting it up there as like the best that Star Wars Disney Plus has to offer. We've seen The Mandalorian, we've seen, Boba Fett. Are you really sure you're going to stick with going to 12?
Yeah, just because of the characters.
Okay, there it is. There you have it. Our first rating. Our second rating will come from the Grandmaster. How many broken helmets can you give on a scale of 1 to 10 for this episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I will give you 2 ratings. One for the episode, one for the show as a whole. Episode 9 out of 10. I can't give it any other number than that. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough. For the whole show, I would say 7 out of 10.
Indeed. Okay. And jumping over to you, Taylor, how many empty holsters can you give this episode of Obi-Wan on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I noticed at the end she was keeping a Lola in that holster. Did you notice that? That became her Lola holster since she wouldn't let her have a gun. But I also want to mention real quick, when I was watching this episode, I was watching with my son, and the moment when the Vader opened up the ground and Obi-Wan went down into the hole and Vader was standing over him, my son said, "He's got the high ground."
Yeah. He should have said it. He should have said the thing, I've got the high ground this time. Yeah.
It's funny. That is so funny.
I think it's a really solid episode. So I'm giving the episode a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. You heard it here. That leaves the privilege of the last rating going to you, JB. How many droids, mini droids, can you give this episode 1 to 10? How many Lolas?
10. This episode's going to get 10 mini droids for sure. Overall
Outstanding.
It's going to get like a 9.6.
The series gets a 9.6, so you're taking away for just a little bit in terms of some of the issues they had with editing and maybe a little bit with continuity, some of those types of things.
Right. You can't say it's perfect. If you give it a 10, you're saying it's perfect, and it wasn't perfect.
Right.
But it was great. I mean, overall, it was great, dude. It was awesome. But it's funny that Taylor said that, because when I watched that, I was sitting on the couch, and when I seen him stand there, I fully expected Vader to go, "Now I have the higher ground."
Right.
No, that didn't happen, but I did fully expect that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that Obi-Wan has faced Darth Vader so many times and lost no limbs. That's how you know he's good. Because if you fight Darth Vader, you're going to lose a limb, more than likely. But yeah. All right, guys, we have got our ratings in, some series ratings here and some episode ratings. We got a mix of ratings in here, but overall, the panel and the champions are responding positively to what Disney Plus is giving us for Star Wars. We've identified areas of improvement, and we do want to see more. So we hope they expand on the universe in all sorts of directions. But now we're going to turn our attention to the Canon Fodder roundups.
Canon Fodder.
So as we've been going along with our series review, we've been looking at some of the theories out there from the fandom in terms of predictions for what was going to happen, some of the most fantastic speculation that's been out there. And now it's time to see how the champions did versus the fandom. Grandmaster, if you will open up the envelope, please.
Well, I'm gonna keep the result. I can pretend like it's 10. It's exciting, but it's not. Yeah, we had only 9 fan theories this whole series because the first 2 episodes were together, and we then skipped Canon Fodder because there was new news coming out of Star Wars Celebration. So we only had fan theories in episode 3, 4, 5. And, well, basically, the champions scored almost maximum points on those fan theories. We scored 7 out of 9.
Wow.
Yeah. I will talk about the ones where we missed some. We missed completely that Riva was going to try and kill Luke. That was the only fan theory where we didn't score. Because that happened, and we had 2 cells and a hold, I believe it was. So that's actually the only fan theory where the fans beat the champions. So congratulations, you managed to beat us at least once. Then we managed 2 times half a point. One was because we had a split panel on the fan theory that Leia will use the Force. We had to buy a cell and a hold. Well, it didn't happen, but it's half a point for the champions. And one is because, we really don't know what's going to happen, and that's about Riva's villainy, that it will come to an end. It did, in a way, but we don't know for sure what will happen with her in the future. And they left it a little bit hanging out there, at least it felt that much to me. If you say it will come to an end, then we both score full points, both the fans and the champions. I left it at a half each, so that was a tie even. There were a few more ties where the fans were right, and the champions went along with that. That was in episode 3, where we had 2 theories where we both scored 2 points. The Grand Inquisitor is not dead. That was right, and well, we also said that as champions. And Qui-Gon Jinn is going to appear as a Force Ghost. Well, the fans predicted that correctly, but we also went along with that. In all other cases, the fans were wrong, and we were right because we dismissed the theories in question. I'm not going to repeat all of those. So the end score is 7 points for the champions, 3.5 points for the fans. That's higher than they usually score, so they're still improving, but they're not beating us.
They're not beating us.
Undefeated.
Yeah, once again,
champions.
The champions have total domination over the speculation space. Our opinions are more important than yours. All right.
No, we're just better fans than you guys.
Yeah, we're better fans than you guys, and we have to get our due here on the podcast of champions. If you've been listening and you want to pit yourself against the knowledge, against the intuition of the champions, join us in the comments in the discussion to talk about that. So thank you for sounding off on those results. That being said, look forward to the next round of Canon Fodder when we do another show, be it Star Wars, Marvel, whatever it is we're going to be reviewing. But now we're going to move on to the lightning round. Where we talk with the champions one-on-one, some questions about the show, about the show's future. We want to hear what each of the champions has to say about a question in particular. Taylor, I'd like to start with you. And our first question really is, and I think you've touched on this, and this is why I'm choosing you for this. Do you want a season 2 of Kenobi? And if so, what would you be hoping to see? A lot of fans are kind of disappointed because they didn't get things like bounty hunters or Kenobi heading to Dagobah to check out Yoda, or Tusken Raiders. We didn't see any of that happen. But I know where you stand on this, but can you expand a little bit more on why you might not be interested in a season 2?
Yeah, I'm not interested in a season 2. I mean, if they make it, I'll watch it. Of course, I'm addicted, but they showed us everything we need to see about that period in Obi-Wan's life, and I don't need a bunch of fan service of Tusken Raiders and going to Dagobah to talk to Yoda. That unless there's an actual story that goes along with that. But again, apparently they can force talk across the galaxy anyway, so why go there?
Force Skype. There it is.
Exactly. So no, I don't think they need another Obi-Wan. I really like this show, and I love when they show us either different time periods or different locations within the Star Wars universe, which is why I loved Rogue One. I like Solo. I love seeing a different era of Solo's life. I love The Mandalorian, seeing what the world was like in between the fall of the Empire and the sequel trilogy. So I love the way they're using these shows and movies to fill in these holes in the tapestry of the whole history. So I want to see something different. Now if they want to do a Riva show, I'm going to put on my producer hat for a second. I don't actually have a producer hat, so I'll just leave this hat on. But we were talking earlier about the character of Riva. Let's be honest, they're trying to build a giant shared universe. They're trying to expand as much as they can. This character was testing the waters. They're looking for the reaction to see if people respond to this character enough that we are going to put her in other movies or other shows or give her own show. And I'm sure there's some number cruncher somewhere at Lucasfilm doing that as we speak. And that's fine. If they make a great show starring Riva, super. But, let's be honest that there are those considerations do go into the building of all of these shows and movies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for your notes on that. I am also of the opinion that I don't necessarily need a second season of Kenobi, really, because I wouldn't want them to start diluting it by saying, "Oh, he's going to meet Vader again, and they're going to fight again." Like, it's like, let's kind of let this rest for a little while, and maybe Kenobi shows up as a supporting in one episode or something like that to kind of keep Ewan McGregor in the lifestyle that he's become accustomed to. But thank you, Taylor. Now to you, JB. This is a question I wanted to put to you in particular. Now that the series is complete, we're just talking about Riva, but how do you feel about Riva as a character? A lot of people feel like she was forced on us and isn't really adding a lot of quality to the overall Star Wars narrative. But a lot of people are also excited about Moses Ingram's performance and the idea of seeing Riva in other spaces. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. What do you think of the character and the actress?
Well, the actress, I think she did a great job. I mean, the actress, she was great. The character, at the beginning of it, when we saw episode 1, and the younglings in there, and then once her character started developing a little bit, it wasn't hard to see that, I think we all agreed that she was one of the younglings, or we all thought she was. So that wasn't hard to piece together for her. But where she goes after this, I don't know. I mean, if they do a show, I would like to see, like, the Inquisitors, something like that coming after her, or her going after the Inquisitors, or something like it. Am I like holding my breath and can't wait for it? No. I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter, one way or the other. But I mean, if they were going to do a show, that's what I would do. I like the timeline stuff. I want to see them go in the timeline order, like what they have in the comics. Like they give you a timeline in the comics, and they give you the breakdown. Like if you're reading the High Republic, then it tells you what's involved in the High Republic, and
where you are in that period in Star Wars history, and what who the major players are during that period. That's
Right,
probably a great idea.
And where this took place, this series, I think Han Solo was just a child. Was he a lot older than Princess Leia?
I don't quite recall. I want to say he is older than Princess Leia and Luke, but not like by a ton of years.
Yeah, so I figure in this time frame, he's probably a young teenager, maybe. So because after this show, according to the timeline, anyways, is Solo. So or Bad Batch, and then they go Solo. So I'd like to see them go in that route. If they're going to do it, to keep it in that timeline, so that we can stay with the historical part of what's going on. Because I like that. I like the history side.
Yeah. Great commentary on that, JB. Thank you so much for your thoughts there. I ask only because, there's been a lot of outrage. And I think probably, the same types of trollish fans doing the thing they always do about Reva. And she probably doesn't deserve as much praise as some people are giving her, but she certainly doesn't deserve all this kind of toxic outrage that's out there. She's somewhere in the middle. And I think most of the panel tends to be, more neutral about her.
Yeah, I'm a fan first and foremost. And I appreciate that we're at a point with the cinema, with the movies and the special effects and all, that we can bring this stuff to life. So I'm really glad for that. So, I mean, no, I can't hate on anybody on any of these shows.
Yeah, I mean, the level of quality and artistry is just a little too high for you to kind of say out and out that anybody is terrible. There's always weaker parts than others. But yeah, I tend to agree with you wholeheartedly, JB. Now, I'd like to turn to my next question and next champion to tackle it. Biz, you are up with the question. There's been a lot said about Leia and Luke being in the first season of Obi-Wan. If they were to come back with a season 2, do you want to see Leia and Luke, child Leia and Luke, return for some of those kinds of antics, or should they pull back on some of that?
Yeah, it's like Taylor said, I wouldn't want to see a season 2. So, but if there was a season 2, no, I think they can explore other things. I mean, yeah, we obviously know Leia is in the Star Wars universe. We've dealt with it in season 1. It'd be kind of refreshing if they did something else. I mean, if they were to pursue like everyone's journey further, like obviously we saw him walking off with Qui-Gon. Who knows what kind of training that would be involved and what kind of adversaries there might be. So yeah, I wouldn't want to see that.
Indeed. All right, thank you so much for that answer. And
sorry, I do
sorry.
have a few notes on other things. I
yeah,
remember
please.
now what I was going to say about Reva before. I kind of see her like, what's her name? I don't know the character's name, but like in the Hawkeye show, I kind of see her like the deaf hero, or the deaf antagonist or anti-hero, the same way I see Reva. Yeah. So she was just kind of there. And also with, I'm not sure how I feel about how like they actually focused on Reva, because I mean it was interesting that they played her right from the beginning. Also was told, like with what Vader was saying. I mean, in my mind, they could have focused on the Grand Inquisitor more. I mean, he's the leader. I mean, like why? I mean, it's obvious now that that she was being played. Like he tolerated a lot of like kind of insubordination from her, surprisingly. But then we know what happened. But it would have been interesting maybe if they would have focused on the Grand Inquisitor more, because he's the leader and he's like in charge. But also a few notes on the Obi-Wan show itself that I come to think of it. It would have been interesting if, say, Deborah Chow might have not been the showrunner, because like she directed Eternals, correct?
No.
That was actually Chloe Zhao. Rhymes.
Oh, my bad.
And they're both Asian.
Okay, right. Okay.
Deborah Chow directed some episodes of The Mandalorian.
Right,
Yes.
okay, my bad. Anyway, but yeah, it would have been interesting if for example, maybe Taker would have been in charge of this show, or for example, Bryce Dallas Howard. Like it might have been totally different, like in terms of like the writing. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% on that, by the way, Biz, because there's a lot of fetishizing of directors. Like we see a director do one or two good episodes in a series, and suddenly they're like the Christ figure, the messianic figure of the fandom. Deborah Chow must now direct everything because there were these two awesome episodes. But we have to understand these people are sort of early to mid career. They don't have the decades of seasoning like a Sam Raimi or somebody who can definitely come and deliver every single time. So you really set these people like Deborah Chow up to fail by giving them ever increasing pressures based on one or two small successes, you know? So
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you on that in that respect.
Yeah, it was a strange decision because it's like, this is Vader Obi-Wan talking about, why didn't like Favreau and Filoni take this under their wing? Like it is interesting that the choice that they made. I don't know. It's
Yeah. Well, I know that you can't get Filoni and the other guy from Iron Man. His name is escaping me now.
Jon Favreau.
Jon
Yeah.
Favreau. They can't direct everything. You know, they
Yeah,
can't
of course.
direct and write everything. You are going to have to trust other talented people to come in behind the scenes and deliver on this. So, but yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. Was there anything else you wanted to share with the
No,
folks
that
at
was
home?
pretty much, yeah.
All right, awesome as always, Biz. Last but not least, we have Grandmaster, and I have a question for you that really is about all of the landmarks that we're seeing in Star Wars. We kind of find ourselves going back to the same places in these series. Tatooine, that there's a lot of sand. I mean, we've gotten a couple of different locations for a few minutes in Obi-Wan Kenobi. But are there other particular corners of the Star Wars universe you want to see, like, again, Dagobah or Coruscant, maybe? We saw like 2 seconds of Coruscant in this, show. Is there Mustafar, even if we saw the castle there, but didn't spend a lot of time there? Are there other settings you're thinking we should go to in some of these series?
No, not particularly. I mean, when I remember from the original trilogy, when I was a kid, what I noticed that there was like a lot of color was very important in the trilogy. In the first one, you had that gray metallic look. In the second one, it was pure white, and then you had also that jungle feel. And then in the end, in the last one, it was very green with
green and Earth Tone, Endor.
Yes. So yeah, and I hope Star Wars keeps on doing that, bringing us new worlds with particular look, which where color plays a big part. I think that's more important to me than a planet or something or a corner. The one thing that annoys me is that Tatooine is supposed to be a nothing system, but somehow
everything happens there.
Exactly. So that annoys me, but it's a minor nitpick, and it's not that important. But yeah, I would like to see them use colors and bring different colors, creating different new planets, new locations using color. That would be very interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they can accomplish that. Like, there was a great episode of The Mandalorian where they went to an ice world, and I would love to go back to someplace like Hoth. Change up the wardrobe, change up the color schemes. Jeddah, Scarif from Rogue One. We know that Scarif is, I guess it's been destroyed at this point in the history, or I'm not even sure where we are in the timeline. I won't pretend.
One of my favorite episodes in the Mandalorian is the one where they go to the sea world where the Mon Cal live, and where the Mandalorian meets Bo-Katan.
Right. They go to the docks, basically.
Yeah, that was a very wet episode, but I really enjoyed that. So, I mean, there are more locations on Earth or in imaginable in the universe which they can use, and they really need to stop with the sand planets. I mean,
Yeah.
we have seen Tatooine, and okay, then they go to another sand planet, Jakku, in the sequel trilogy. But it's they could have might as well called it Tatooine as well. So,
Right. Agreed. So yeah, it sounds like we agree that they do need to spice it up in terms of settings and color palette for these shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, always great talking to you about this kind of stuff. We have a follow-up from Biz. What would you like to say about the settings as far as these series goes?
Yeah, I definitely agree. But yeah, no, not much more to say to that. But I do like this has been mentioned a few times before, but I'll mention it again, just so that in the hopes
no one
that
forgets.
Knows that maybe Star Wars sees this, but Knights of the Old Republic, we need to see that. Because the way it's designed and the whole feel of it, it's kind of like a medieval kind of look of Star Wars. Just the whole design of the kind of what they wear, the armor, even the lightsabers look very, very different. It's also more of a darker story. But yeah, I definitely like to see the Old Republic, that's for sure.
Indeed. Champions, now I make the final call for any last minute comments or observations that you have before we close out the episode. Is everyone satisfied? All right. It certainly looks like it. Parting is such sweet sorrow, but I promise you this, the champions will be back. I want to thank the panel and our listeners for joining me today. And I also want to remind you that you can join the conversation on sakar.freeforums.net. I'd also like to give a special shout out to all the Mon Calamari on Sakar. You know, we were just talking about that wet planet. So this one goes out to you guys if you're listening. Remember to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all of the socials where you can find the podcast of Champion. And until next time, may the force be with you always.